And our next speaker is Dr. Brian Knuckley. Dr. Knuckley is an assistant professor in the Department of Chemistry and currently teaches general chemistry and biochemistry to UNF undergraduates. He holds a PhD in chemistry with an emphasis on biochemistry and drug development, and spent 2 years as a postdoctoral fellow at the Scripps Research Institute. His topic is the use of screencasting for instruction and student feedback. And while they get started, I think, did I see, Erin, that we've already had somebody win a prize for tweeting?
Yes.
So already, hope you know who you are.
All right, good morning. I'm Brian Knuckley, so I am an assistant professor in chemistry. And today I'm really here to talk to you about screencasting. Okay, and screencasting is basically just digital recordings of what's on your screen, okay, with some type of narrative along with it. And so I'm sure your students are pretty much like the students that I see most of the time that are, walking around with their cell phone, scrolling Twitter, scrolling Facebook, checking in on Facebook, looking at Instagram, checking email, and I'm no different. Okay, I'm pretty much the same. So I'm on Twitter, I'm on Facebook, and I'm even checking my email constantly, even though I know that most of the emails I get are campus updates or student emails or some kind of sales, pitch. And so I'm connected, right? So are our students. They're always connected. And so I like to think of it as this UNF connected, right? They're all online. And so there's a number of statistics out there, but the one that I find pretty interesting is that, almost every undergraduate has a cell phone nowadays, okay? And most students are going to have multiple devices. They're going to have tablets, they're going to have laptops, they're going to have desktops, and they may have all of them, okay? So when we think about that, we think about, well, they're also connected to all these different types of social media, and they're constantly on that. And so to me, that tells me that my students and students pretty much everywhere want everything digital, okay? They want it all right there for them. And so, because students are connected all the time, okay, there's a couple things that they want from the classroom that we can actually give them through different digital screencasts and so forth. The first is feedback, okay? Students want more feedback, okay? And one of the things that I guess I should say first is that, I can look back to when I was an undergraduate, in college, which was late 90s, early 2000s, and I know that I walked into the classroom and I was hoping that the professor would give me some kind of PowerPoint slides. I don't want to have to listen and catch every single word and write everything down, trying to listen to them. So if you give me the slides, that helps a lot. And the generation before me probably was happy if the professor put up a transparency, okay, or an old slide deck where they could basically see some pictures, get a couple of important notes written down, and not have to catch every word. Students now want more than that, okay? They want more information, they want more given to them. And so, like I said, the first thing that they really want is feedback, okay? And so with screencasting now, we can actually give them more feedback than we did previously, okay? So for me personally, when I was an undergraduate, I would have to answer problems and turn those in, into the chapter problems, or I'd have to write an essay. And, I'd turn that into the TA, I'd give it to the instructor, but it may take a week or 2 weeks to return that, and then I'd get a score of 75. And it would say -5 here, -3 here. It wouldn't really tell me much about it. But now with screencasting, we can basically take that, those homework assignments, collect them digitally, and then basically make little voice recordings over that document as we highlight, mark things out, and explain the way that they should have answered the problem. The other thing that students want, or two of the other things, and they're kind of tied together, is they want additional instruction. Okay, they need more instruction outside the classroom, okay? Or they want more reminders, they want more review. And so, there's a couple reasons for that, okay? One is I feel like a lot of students, learn at different paces, okay? So some students will come into class and maybe they don't catch everything right away, okay? They need additional instruction outside of the class. There's also the student that comes in, doesn't really find his professor too engaging, sitting in the back, playing Candy Crush, not really paying attention, okay? Meanwhile, the friend's trying to beat him right next to him because they're at different levels. And so there's multiple reasons why they need this additional instruction. And I find, at least in my classes, the number one reason is they come in, they listen, they really understand, they say, okay, I've got this, they walk out the door, 2 seconds later, they forget it all. They don't remember. Okay, so then a week later, 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, when they were tested on it, they don't remember this. Okay, So how do we make that connection? In order to do that, I thought about what happens when I do that same thing. Okay? So maybe I want to, change the oil in my car. And I say, well, all right, the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go to the auto parts store. I'm going to walk in, I'm going to talk to the salesman, and I'm going to ask him, hey, I'd like to change the oil in my car. What tools do I need? He's going to tell me the tools that I need. I'm going to purchase those. He may give me a quick rundown of, here's how you do it. Okay? I'm like, all right, I've got this. I drive home, I get inside, grab a sandwich, eat a little or watch a little football, and then I'm like, I'm going to do this. I walk outside and I forget. What did he tell me? What was that one step that I'm missing? I'm no different than my students. We're connected. I'd hop on Google, I'd Google it, probably open up a YouTube video, watch that YouTube video, remind myself, oh, that's what I was missing. Well, that's exactly what our students do. Okay, they use things like these Khan Academy videos or YouTube or wherever else. And so we can help provide some of that information. And so for me personally, I think about, well, how do we give that additional instruction outside of class? How do we help with that? And so trying to go from my traditional lecture hall, lecture that I would give to an online environment is much, much different. Okay? And about a year ago, my previous chair had sent out an email asking, does anyone want to teach general chemistry online? And I said, hey, I'll volunteer to do that. That can't be difficult. Just take my lecture, post it online. It's easy enough. I found out that's not the case. Okay? In order to really give a quality instruction online, it takes a lot more than that. So my traditional lectures in class are basically PowerPoint slides followed by some practice problems on the board, working through examples, drawing some different things on the whiteboard in order to explain the topics. And so translating that to the online environment is much, much different. So when I started teaching online, I thought about what are the two things that are really, or what are the things that are really important in teaching online. Okay? The first is you need the right tools to deliver the material. Okay? The second is you need motivated students that can take those tools and use it in order to learn the material. Okay? I know for me personally, I can do all the tool stuff. I can come up with cool ways of delivering the information, I can find new technology, and I can give that to the students. Okay? But at the end of the day, those students have to be motivated. Okay? And I can do my part to try to engage them, try to get them excited, but at the end of the day, it's on them, whether it's a face-to-face or an online class. And so I turn to screencasting, okay? And there's basically two different types that I use. There are probably 50 different good apps out there. These are the two that I like the most that I've used, okay? This Explain Everything app I'll talk about, it's like $2.99, but there's a lot of free ones, and I'm not trying to push any of them. But let me first talk about the Screencasting, okay? With Screencasting, this is a desktop program, okay? It's basically online. You can pretty much use it on pretty much any device. It's easiest on a desktop or laptop. Basically, click on it and it records two things. It records what's on your screen and it can record you while you talk, okay? One of the things that I needed to do when I set up this online class is I realized I can't tell my students everything I would normally tell a student in class. Okay? Simple things like, how to go on a Blackboard and log into the site, how to, navigate the course, or how to log into the, we use like a Mastering Chemistry homework thing. So how do you look at that? How do you teach them when you don't see that student face to face? And so I made a series of how-to videos, short tutorials that basically take the student through. Okay? Meanwhile, you can see that up here at the top, here's me, okay? And you can make that as big as you want. You can change the size of it, but basically they get to see me talking about it. Meanwhile, they see the cursor move around and click and kind of go through that. And so the one that's up here right now is how to research a journal article on the UNF library website. Okay, one of my projects in this class is that they have to research or find an article and write a little short summary. So I explained briefly how to do so. The other screencasting software I use is this Explain Everything. Okay? It's appropriately named because you can pretty much explain everything and anything. Okay? I do two different ways. Okay? The first thing is, like I said, in my face-to-face lecture, I have PowerPoint slides, I have practice problems on the whiteboard, I go over and I explain certain topics. And so a lot of times I'll put up my PowerPoint slides, but there's something that's kind of challenging that I need to draw out. And so one of these that I do is when I talk about energy shells in an atom. And normally I would draw it on the board and explain it while I do it, instead of just posting a PowerPoint slide and saying, here it is, okay? Because you don't get the whole story, okay? If you look at a picture that just stays, it's stagnant, you don't get the whole picture. And so by drawing it on the board, I can explain these as I go through it. So in the online class, I had to think about how do I translate that. And so I looked for these different types of apps, and this explained everything. Basically, I can open up my PowerPoint slides into this app. Okay? I can edit it, I can change things, I can write on it, I can record myself speaking. Okay? I can record videos, I can open up websites, whatever I want to do. Okay? It allows you to do everything. And then I can save it. And I can save it as just a PDF, I can save it as a YouTube video, I can upload it straight to Dropbox, whatever I want to do. And so that's what I did for my lecture videos. On the other hand, the other part of my class is I work through example problems. And to do that in class is very easy, right? You have the whiteboard, you can just work through the problem and explain how you're making the next step in the solution. Online, it's not as easy, right? You can't really do that. I can give the students the questions, and then I can say, here's the solution, but there's that disconnect. And so online, I made all these practice problem videos, and I worked through each example and explained how I got to that solution. And so that really helps the students with that additional instruction, because now they can constantly look at these videos. So what I really want to say is that, I took my class, which was, face-to-face class, and I had to transition that to online. It does not translate that well. You cannot just take your face-to-face and put it online. But one of the best things I did, that really made me think of the way I was teaching very differently, is going backwards. So now that I have that online class, it's really changed the way I teach in my face-to-face class. Because now I have all kinds of different options. I can give my students these lecture videos. After I stand up there in lecture, in face-to-face, using this iPad app, I can draw these out on this PowerPoint slide. And instead of having them copy stuff down on the board as I do it, I draw it on the PowerPoint slide. At the end of class, I can just send that to them. I can upload it as a YouTube video. Now they have that lecture. They can remember exactly what we were talking about, why we drew that picture, and why we drew it in separate steps. Okay? Same thing with the practice problems. I can do that as well, and so they have those as well. So, there's a few conclusions I want to leave you with. Okay? So, first is incorporate technology. Okay? There's tons of technology, there's tons of apps, there's tons of ways to do this screencasting. Incorporate it. Okay? It helps the students. I say the second point, which is think like you're teaching online. Okay? Because if you think like you're teaching online, even if you're not doing it, if you kind of put yourself in that frame of mind, it changes the way you think about teaching. The last is you can use this screencasting to really assist in time management and to provide instant feedback. I love the time management of it. Class is precious, right? We talk about these flipped classrooms. We don't have time to go through all the information. And if we do, maybe we have to rush through certain topics. Different students learn at different paces. And so by using the screencasting, we can actually do pre-lectures or follow-up lectures online where maybe they have trouble with scientific notation. Well, I can post a video explaining scientific notation that they can go back and listen to me explain instead of YouTubing it, okay? And then they can hear that. Or, additionally, I can make follow-up lectures that go more in depth. For the students that are really advanced and want to get a little bit more information, here's a video of a little bit more, okay? So it really gives the students that extra. Plus, they can go back and rewatch these practice problem videos and hear me explain how we work through it. And providing instant feedback is extremely important nowadays. Okay, you can give your students a lot more than just a grade. You can give them those other comments. And so I got posted up here. One of my colleagues actually uses a similar app in order to go through his exams. So a lot of us, give our exam the following class period. We spend an entire class going over the exam. Okay, we've lost the class period. So now he actually uses a whiteboard app, kind of the same thing, works through those examples. And that way, the student also gets to, look back at what they did wrong, but you save that valuable class time. I think I have 1 minute left, so really quick, I'm just going to show you this app so that you kind of can see what I'm talking about. So this is explain everything app, okay? You could basically create a new template, okay? You open it up, and it gives you a bunch of options, okay? The first is you have a pen, so you can just write anything that you want, okay? So then you can also put in text boxes and type whatever you need, okay? You can add existing photos or videos, open new browsers, take pictures, you can bring in YouTube videos, so forth. You can even use a laser pointer and highlight certain things. Meanwhile, I can record everything I just did, okay? You can upload that, save it as a YouTube video, and your student gets that as well. So with that being said, I'll answer any questions you have.
It's really cool, some of the things that you just demonstrated. I noticed that you went back and forth between PowerPoint and the tablet. How easy is it to do that when you're developing the class? Because that was the biggest thing I was thinking as you were going. Because I teach accounting. I like to do problems on the whiteboard. You've now shown us an alternative to doing that. I'm just wondering how easy it is.
In most of the classrooms, they have the VGA cable attached and the little, you can choose between the laptop and PC. And so I've tried this out, and you can switch back and forth pretty easily. You can post it up there. On the actual app, like if you open up the PowerPoint thing, I just insert a new slide. And so while you're making that, you can upload your PowerPoint slides that you have. And if you want to add a new topic or you want to go through an example problem, you can just add a slide and write it. And then all that's saved in one file. And so then you can upload that all to YouTube all together. Does that answer your question?
I was thinking more if I'm sitting in my office trying to do an online class and doing it, in our building, yeah, you can do exactly what you said. But I'm thinking sitting in my office trying to develop this, to send it out, to develop a YouTube video or whatever as I'm editing this kind of stuff.
For the most part, it's really pretty straightforward. It works really well at just recording whatever you really want.
Okay. Sorry, I just want to take care of it.
So for getting feedback on like student papers, you can use the Screencasting on that. If you were going to grade a paper, I'll have a student write a 3-page report on something. And normally I won't open up Word and put little comments and type it all in. But have you used that Screencasting or this for feedback on papers and all that?
No, I don't collect too many papers in the general chemistry class, so I haven't used it in a different course. But what I have done, or what I'm in the process of doing, is one of the projects that the online class has to do is they basically have to make their own video. And so I give them a set of practice problems or example problems like they did on the exam. They have to choose one of those and record on one of these apps or Screencast or whatever they want to do, even a cell phone, record their solution while they talk through it. Then they send that to me. And then I voice back over that, make my corrections to whatever they're doing to basically give them feedback on the way they're thinking. So it kind of gives me that aspect that I get to hear exactly what they're thinking while they solve the problem, but then I can correct where that problem is. I know that there's a lot of like PDF viewers that can do the same thing, similar apps where you can open the PDF, you can edit it, you can voice over it and send that back. So I would think something like that would work well in essay style.
I just wanted to kind of answer that question, and that's exactly what I do in writing classes. And what I do is I have students put up on the discussion board on Blackboard their papers. And then I go through it with Word and make comments, but kind of little comments just to remind myself of what everything is. And then I save that, and then I use Screencasting also. And I put the paper up on the screen, and I lead the students through each comment. And that way it gives me more time to really explain each comment and what I'd like to see them do. And then I go back to Blackboard, and as a reply, I post up both the screencast and the edited story that I've done. That way we don't have to actually take time in class to do it, and they can actually do it outside. They can make all the corrections outside of class, and then have it all done. I've been doing that for 3 or 4 years now, and I've found that it's extremely effective as far as time management, and as far as having also the time just to get more complex concepts over to students.
another question. So when you said that you did the course online, so do you mean that students actually listen to you real time, or do you mean that you record your lectures and then they listen to you, or they visualize those lectures according to their own time?
Yeah, I'm sorry. So yes, I recorded my videos before, and I guess my lectures in class, right, are 50 minutes or 75 minutes. But I've trimmed that down where I separate out my practice problems. I separate out anything that's not just, here's just the theory, here's just what you need to know. And so I've shortened that down to very short YouTube videos where I basically use this explain everything app and I work through it. So yeah, they're like, I basically give them 2 10-minute videos each week to watch.
So how do you make sure, to follow up with this, so how do you make sure that students get the basic concepts right, like things like what are stable configurations, so like in our classes are stable configurations, so that the anomalies. So for example, in Popper we have the D shell filled up before the S, the outermost S shell. So I mean, when I learned these so it took me some time to actually understand why those were so. Like things like complicated things like Lewis acid or the lone pair of electrons. To know that, I have to know the basics. So how do you make sure that your students have the basic concepts right online before you move on to something more complicated?
Yeah, so the course is broken up into each chapter is a week, basically. And so they have multiple things to do. They have a reading and lecture quiz, where they basically, did you watch the lecture, did you read the book? They have homework assignments following up with that. But most importantly, they have the lecture and these worksheet problems. I don't collect the worksheet problems. It's for their practice. And so I go through and I can set up the lecture, explain it, and then I tell them to look at these practice problems. And so I go through and then explain why we're talking about different concepts. So yes, if they just watch the lecture videos and not the practice problems, they're going to have some disconnect there. But I try to make sure that I point that out, that they need to do that as well. And then they're tested on it after that.
Thank you.
Yep.
We have time for one more question.
So a lot of the things that you talked about in the applications you're using can be accomplished in Blackboard Collaborate. What's the difference, or what are the advantages to using your applications?
It's definitely a lot easier to use, and you can pretty much, I haven't tried the Blackboard Collaborate on like the iPad or anything. I don't know how well that works. The Blackboard Collaborate probably is somewhat similar. I know that I do like virtual office hours, and at least in my aspect, trying to draw on a tablet is a lot easier because you have the stylus, and it's a lot easier to draw on there and explain concepts. Trying to do it with my mouse is really a pain. I know you can buy the other stylus and tablets and stuff. It probably works very similar. For me, it's quick, it's easy, it's always with me. I can make my videos, I can upload practice problems, and then just being able to import and export pretty quickly. So.